Hi, I'm Dinesh, the Spicy Gourmet. Welcome back. I'm really very honored to have you visit me as I show you one of my most favorite dishes from Sri Lanka, and that is a Sri Lankan beef curry. And these are the ingredients. I'm using stew meat. You may use flap steak or whatever cut you may wish to. Besides the stew meat, I'm using onions, ginger, finely chopped ginger, Sri Lankan curry powder, which I have already showed you how to make. We have a lemongrass stem that's split in two, and this is from the bottom of the lemongrass, which is most flavorful. Some pandan leaves, some garlic, some crushed cardamom. Actually, they're just basically crushed, meaning you lay the cardamom pod on the counter and you take the flat blade of a knife and you crush it. You basically bruise it. That's the term they use. We have serrano, or in this particular case, I prefer habanero. It is a little spicier, but it really does enhance the flavor. It gives it that habanero flavor. We have some Ceylon cinnamon quills, and these are curry leaves from my own plant. First thing we do is we prepare the stew meat by seasoning it. And the way we do that is we add some salt and some Ceylon roast or Sri Lankan curry powder. This actually I make myself. Put that on there. And then we're going to add some vinegar. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this, and I'm going to add vinegar to make it moist, because that enhances the ability for the meat to absorb the flavor of the salt and the curry powder, okay? The Ceylon roast curry powder. Now I'm going to use my hands and I'm going to mix this up really well. If you like the flavor of black pepper, you're welcome to sprinkle some on. But as you can see, I have some habanero that will really, give it a kick. So I'm going to mix this up with my hands. And what's preferable is that you leave this refrigerated overnight or for a couple of hours. I know not everyone has the inclination to take time to prepare this the way I'm preparing it, so that it is seasoned overnight. So a couple of hours is fine, okay? I'm going to put some more curry powder on here. And you can really determine the correct seasoning by the color and the aroma. So I do this. I'm going to wrap it up with some saran wrap and refrigerate it. That looks good to me, actually. And if you feel that the flavor is not robust enough in the cooking process, you can also add some more of this curry powder while it's cooking. Okay, so we have seasoned the stew meat with the Sri Lankan curry powder, the Ceylon roast curry powder, in other words, some salt and vinegar. And now it's time to start the cooking process. Quite simple. We have the curry leaves. I'm going to take some of this sprig. That's what it's termed, a sprig, oddly enough. And I'm going to tear it and put it in the oil, and it's going to splatter like that. Then as it splatters, you don't want this to fry too much longer than just like a few seconds. You add the onions, followed by the cardamoms, a stick of cinnamon, and the pandan leaves. Now those are the first ingredients we add. Actually, we may add the ginger too. You want to let that fry till the onions are browning somewhat on high heat. You may reduce the heat if you feel it's frying too fast or if it's getting brown too quickly, because we do want the oil to extract the flavor of the onions and these other ingredients, and it takes a little time. So we saute this a little bit. And this is on high heat. So what we're going to do next is we're going to add the garlic. after a couple of minutes. And then we want to add the lemongrass. Stir this up a little bit. At this point, you want to have the heat at a medium-high to allow the onions to brown, and you really want to get it to a point where it's turning a golden color. Then we're prepared to add the balance of the ingredients. Okay? Okay, so we have the onions, garlic, lemongrass, cinnamon, curry leaves, and pandan leaves frying in coconut oil. And they're kind of turning into a golden color. So what we want to do next is to add, oh yeah, the habanero pepper, which is really, if you're extremely sensitive to heat, you might opt for serrano peppers, okay? Then we're going to stir this a little bit. And then immediately afterwards, I'm going to add the stew meat, which is already seasoned. There we go, sizzling. Stir that really well. Now, additionally, what I'd like to do is to add some paprika, not for flavor necessarily, but color. So I'm going to add some paprika here. Now, as I mentioned, I've already seasoned this with salt, but using salt is really an art in layering flavors with salt. So we want to be able to not add too much salt in seasoning, taste it during the cooking process, and then add more if needed. So what we're doing here is we're browning the meat with the seasoning and all the other ingredients. That's looking delicious actually already. So I think that is quite done. Done meaning at the stage where we're ready to add the additional ingredients. Now some people prefer to really kind of roast this, but I prefer to leave it somewhat unroasted, so to speak, because it enables the beef to absorb the flavor. Because if you seal the beef completely on all sides, then it inhibits the flavors from being absorbed. Now I'm going to lower the heat, which is very important, and actually what you might want to do is take it off the heat because we're going to be adding coconut milk. And coconut milk is best added where at a lower temperature because it tends to coagulate. So I'm going to add some coconut milk. And I like to do this in stages once again because you want to determine how much coconut milk you want to add, because if you want a milder sauce, then you add more coconut milk. If you want a stronger and a thicker sauce, then you add a little at a time. At this point, what I like to do is, actually you can do this now or you could do it before adding the coconut milk. I like to add some chopped tomatoes. The chopped tomatoes does add flavor, and it also creates more liquid, because as the coconut as the tomato cooks, it liquefies and gives this particular dish additional liquid. And we're going to cook this down, because once this is ready, which is really right now, we're going to cover it and put it on a low simmer for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, even up to an hour, depending on the type of cut of meat you use. So you want the final dish to be as if it was on the bone, to just simply just peel off the bone, and it's succulent. It's not chewy. The beef is very well done, and all the flavors have had a chance to incorporate. So this is the Sri Lankan beef curry, one of my all-time favorite dishes from Sri Lanka. Of course, there are many, many more that I would love to share with you. But here it is. Now you can actually simmer this down until the gravy is really thick. It's all your preference. But I hope you enjoy this. I'm Dinesh, the Spicy Gourmet. Until the next time, cheers.